As an advocate on behalf of Israel, you've most likely come across the accusation that Israel is an apartheid state. What we're going to do in the following videos is try and see how we can provide not only evidence to demonstrate that that's not true, but in fact that Israel is probably one of the leading and most vibrant democracies in the world today. Now, before we can actually begin, we need to understand what apartheid is. Let's start at the beginning. So the literal definition of apartheid is separation in Afrikaans, a language spoken in South Africa. And it is a term that was meant to describe a form of government or a regime, if you will, that existed in South Africa in the previous century, under which a minority of citizens in South Africa that were white basically took control of the government and, using the power of government, the military, the police, basically created a new reality where the majority of the black South African citizens were not only discriminated against, but were actually formally oppressed. And when I say formally oppressed, I mean that laws were passed limiting where a black South African could live, where a black South African could get hired to work at. Certainly, they did not have access to all public facilities. They couldn't vote. They couldn't get elected. They certainly couldn't hold supreme public offices such as Supreme Court judge. I mean, the majority of the population was literally enslaved by the law and was kept under by a small minority of whites. This led, of course, to public outrage, and ultimately, after many, many years of pressure by the international community and very, very painful sanctions to the country, the regime fell and the majority of blacks in South Africa received equality. Those who claim that Israel is an apartheid state are basically trying to say that Israel and the reality in Israel is similar to South Africa and the reality in South Africa under the apartheid regime. So either they are very, very ignorant and do not know what happened in South Africa or do not know what is currently happening in Israel, or what is worse, they're not ignorant at all, they know exactly what's happening and they're making the claim anyway. So what we're going to do in this section of the website, using this definition of apartheid, is we're going to provide a description of Israel and of what's happening in Israel. I'm going to give you a list of facts which will demonstrate to you, number one, why it is that any claim to the effect of apartheid existing in Israel is simply factually incorrect, and two, any claim or description of the relationship between Israel and its neighboring almost state, the Palestinian Authority and the Palestinian people, is also an incorrect use of the term.